Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Market Movers, where we do live analysis for day trading and take a look at hotspots in the markets today, Wednesday, April 27th. And there is volatility in the markets. I'm sure you've been following it. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me, the CEO of Keep Trading Simple, Brian Caprice. So thank you for joining Brian every day. We do appreciate it. This is some great analysis, and I know everyone likes likes listening in. Today, we are going to be talking about there's news. There's news out of Europe with Russia cutting off the gas supply to Poland and Bulgaria. Okay, they said they would. They've actually done it. That's reverberating throughout Europe. What are we seeing? Well, there's some volatility in nat gas, particularly in Europe in nat gas. But I think in anticipation of that, we saw some movement in nat gas over here yesterday. We were talking about it. We're also seeing euro weakness. Any currency in the eurozone, they're all weak. The dollar is seeing strength. We're going to take a look at some of those FX pairs. And then lastly, of course, a lot of the news is around the equity markets. They absolutely got hammered yesterday. We're still in earnings season. And what was interesting, and I know that while we don't trade individual stocks here, we are looking at the NASDAQ index as a whole. NASDAQ is coming near 20% down from its highs. But yesterday we had Google and Microsoft both report earnings. Google earnings were not so good, and the company sold off yesterday going into earnings. It's getting smashed again this morning. The irony or the comedy of it is Microsoft got smashed yesterday, and then they reported their numbers. They completely blew it out. I mean, completely blew it out. Top line, bottom line, and the knee-jerk reaction was to sell. We are in an environment where people just fear is driving everything. Now, of course, in fact, I think Brian might even look at the chart. They sold Microsoft, and then, you know, reason, sanity prevailed. Buyers stepped in and said, "Thank you very much." So we will take a look at that. Microsoft's actually opening higher, and the markets, the broad markets, equities all looking to open in the green. Google isn't dragging everything down. Microsoft is actually helping support some of that. We're getting a little bit of help this morning. So that's a quick summary. Before I flip it over to Brian, we get into some of the news and we jump into those charts, which I know you definitely want to see as the charts. I do need to share that trading involves risk. It may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We're doing this for your education purposes only. So here, Brian, I'm going to flip it over to you and we can get right into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a morning of movement in currencies, but you know, the move is out. Everybody knows why it's out. Euro dollar down 126, pound dollar down 146, dollar Swiss up 120, and then pound yen down 103. And to get it all, it's something that we've mentioned here that Russia said they were going to do it, and they did it. And again, it's funny the name calling's back and forth. But again, we knew that this was something that was going to be there. I think blackmail is the wrong word. Blackmail is like, I have a dirty secret on you. You're going to give me money, right? This is like, hey, you cut us off from the banking system. Fine, you need to pay us in currency that we can use because we don't sell our stuff for free, and we're going to do it. And yeah, they did it. They're cut off. Poland and Bulgaria are there. Now, again, Poland seems like they're prepared for it. They knew it was coming. They already said that, hey, we're going to cut ourselves off. We're going to go completely, So, one of the things I've said is Russia will take this until the point where we're right at the end, and then they'll cut them off for the headline. And they did. Poland, although Bulgaria supposedly is like, we don't know what we're going to do. Germany now has called emergency meetings and said, hey, we were already trying to figure out how to ration gas. Yeah. Yesterday, Germany sent 50 tanks to the Ukraine. What was the response? Hey, we just cut your neighbors off. Are you next? And again, it's legitimate. I mean, I'd much rather them cut natural gas off than start shooting nuclear weapons.
Nuclear weapons.
Yeah. So, and again, it's a weird scenario. I mean, you can say what you want, but at the end of the day, when you sell something, you're the one that has the power. You're going to pay me in this dollar, and again.
Now, they do have contracts and agreements in place, and this is where it gets kind of goofy. Is the agreements aren't we'll pay you in rubles, we'll pay you in dollars and euros, And
Right, but they
now
were cut
that
off
we're
from the
being
banking system.
sanctioned, they're like, this doesn't work for us anymore. Well,
Well, of course it
and
doesn't.
stop doing what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah, of course it doesn't work because they cut them off from the way that they would receive payment. So it's like, yeah, we'll pay you in euros, but you can't have those euros. They're going to sit in
Yeah.
your sanctioned bank account. So in reality, it's not Russia that's breaking the contract. It was everybody else that put the sanctions on. So, again, weird scenario, something we haven't seen, and this is what weaponizing does. But Germany is now calling emergency meetings, and Hungary has now said, okay, fine, we'll pay in rubles. So this is the second or third country now that says they will pay in rubles. So again,
Until they have
you need
an
it,
alternative.
You got to have it. So
Poland was smart.
and again, which one?
Poland was the one who saw this coming. They were actually going to turn it off later this year.
Yeah.
And they've been stockpiling it. So Poland was like, Russia's going to do something crazy one of these days. We know it. They're unstable. And we're going to get ourselves away from them. And so Poland was, they're kind of half laughing right now. But clearly Hungary.
It's the same thing with Germany cutting off. It's the same thing with Germany cutting off coal. They had already planned to cut off coal this year, and the first thing they said is, you know what, we're not buying coal from you. It's like you would already shut down.
We're going to do it anyway.
You weren't going to do, like, okay, sure, thanks. So, but again, Hungary is also, again, if you look through history, Hungary was also the battleground state. You know, Germany went one way, Russia went the other way, and they met in the middle of Poland. So, Poland has got one of those histories in the past where they're, again, a little bit more on the conservative side of things, and they looked at that. And again, they'd already kind of planned it, you know, just kind of seeing where the world was going. So, but again, it is big. It is big news. Natural gas is not necessarily popping because of it yet. It did take a little bit of a 25-cent hike, but the world was kind of preparing for this. And again, let me show Microsoft real fast, and we'll jump back to natural gas just because I have it up, and it's not one of the standard things that we have on the side. But Microsoft blew it out of the water. Again, this is one of those learning pieces again. You may say, you know, we talked about, and again, I mentioned it yesterday, right? With the price pushing down before news, you typically look to go for buys. They blew it out of the water, and you can see it had a spike. And I don't know if you can see it all the way down here. Let me put a line. It actually dropped all the way down to here. You may say, well, why would it have done that? Very simply, everybody and their brother looked at this and said, hey, you know what? Price went down. I'm waiting for this. Oh, my God, they blew it out. I got to buy. And immediately what it does, and again, if you've ever experienced this is a very common thing. You buy something, and immediately it goes against you. It's like the market knew that you got in there. Absolutely, because everybody and their brother was getting in. So big professionals say, hey, wait a second. Why would I spend $270 for this when I can put something down here at $260? You
Wash them out.
It goes down. It wipes out everybody's stop losses in there. They get out of the position, and then you get it on sale. And then what does it do? It goes from here all the way up, right? So again, this is the way that big banks and big money work, right? They know that you're waiting to see the headline. If you could have pre-positioned yourself, and again, I'm not saying don't use stop losses because you absolutely should, but using a product like an option, whether it's a traditional or anything that Nadex has to offer, right? This is what we do for all news releases. If you can see it driving down to get a discounted price on there, do you care about this? No, you don't care about this. There's no stop out in this scenario. But when it goes up higher, now you still were able to maintain, get out on the other side for a profit. Whether it was a traditional option or not, if you bought a call over here, as it went lower, the call was worth less, but it didn't stop you out of the trade and then higher. Where this is where people get into a habit of saying, oh, you have to use a stop loss, but every time I use a stop loss, I get stopped out. Yes, because professionals that know what they're doing, they know exactly where your stop losses are going to be. It's not like they see your order. They don't need to see your order. They know where again, we used to call it the puke point. Everybody knows where the heck they are. If you have any idea what you're doing, you know exactly where all the stop losses are going to be placed. You know when people are putting them in there. Why? Because you all read the same stuff. You watch the same YouTube videos. So it's very, very easy to see. That's why using products like Nadex that don't necessarily have a stop loss, that they don't wipe you out on the whipsaws, but still take advantage of the top side. Great way to trade, guys. Great way to trade. So that's here. Let me go back to natural gas real quick, and then we're going to move on. But you see natural gas, here's the gap. Here's the trade we talked about yesterday, that little bit of a pullback. And again, we got the 1 to 3 bouncing off that 7. Now we're back up to $7.08. And you may say, well, why doesn't the candle look like this? They just cut it off. Pretty simple. They knew it was going to get cut off. Why? Well, they said at the end of the month, end of April, the beginning of May is when the contracts are due. Okay. So as we got closer and closer and closer, you see it here, and that's when everybody starts buying. You're like, well, wait, what's happening? Now, the big question now is, are they going to cut other countries off?
It's almost kind of like the same trade you saw in Microsoft, where going into it, they pounded and there was a parabolic move. I mean, they just at the end of last week, nat gas sellers, pushing it down, washing people out to immediately retrace a takeoff this week, going into this is what Russia's going to do. They're going to turn it off, and it gave them that opportunity.
Yeah, it's the anticipation, right?
Yeah,
it was the anticipation. So,
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and again, this is one of the biggest things that I always try to teach my traders as well is who's on the other side of your trade. Like if something is so good, why would you buy it? You know, like how many people were raving about Bitcoin at 68,000? It's like, oh, that's it. It's going to 100,000. Like how many experts said it's going to 100,000 and silver is going to 100? And where are they right now? AMC was supposed to go to what, like $1 million or whatever. AMC's down to 15. Again, AMC is continuing to just
look at that
all the way back down again. So, yeah, I mean, it's it's crazy. GME kind of the same thing, right?
GameStop.
They keep trying to do the same stuff. So always try to figure out who's on the other side of your trade and focus on your risk first. Now, with that being said, besides the gas thing, there's not really a whole lot of other comments. Obviously, China and Japan tensions over Taiwan add pressure to the yen. We keep hearing this yen. Oh my God, the yen. We're still continuing to have that deterioration. We haven't necessarily found a bottom, and we also just bounce off the 23.6 again. Again, where's this one going to stop? 160, I mentioned yesterday, is a big psychological number. It got down to 159.64. It's bouncing around again. Again, the UK doesn't have as much exposure, but everything European right now is taking weakness because if they cut it off by two countries, they are absolutely going to have the ability to cut it off for more. And you may say, well, isn't this going to hurt their profit? Not really, because natural gas is going for 2 or 3 times what it typically is right now. So even if they lost half of what their sales were, they're still making the money that they thought anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, they're still getting it, as well as China will say, hey, we'll take that extra supply. We'll pay 75% of what it's worth. And Russia will say, oh, we're blocked from everybody else. Sure, take it at 75%. It's already inflated. It's getting 75%.
They got to find a way to get it. Some of that oil,
Yeah.
They can't necessarily get to China because nat gas, because where the deposits are and where the pipelines are.
Yeah.
They're going to have to liquefy it. They'll have to ship it. And India too, because India will buy it as well, but they're just going to have to put it on a ship and ship it to India.
Yeah.
So we'll have to figure that out.
And yeah, I mean, again, there's infrastructure spending. Trust me, if they need to have it, they'll find a way to get it there. So, as far as what we can do in the markets today, again, I forgot to bring it. Oil inventory. Let me bring this over.
Yeah, I don't think we have any. I don't think there's any. We have oil inventory today.
Yep, and oil inventory came in. Oh, I don't need notifications. Oil inventory actually came in at a surplus of 4.7 million barrels. So again, another one of those kind of surplus-based days. We'll see what the actual. Let's see, what is it? What is the forecast right now for it? See how close it is. They're forecasting basically completely flat, right? Completely flat on there. So, little bit of a divergence in there where, they're flat and they were saying that there was supposed to be a surplus at 2.1. I'm curious to see if this is going to come in as a surplus of, again, if it comes in 4, it's a 4 million barrel difference there in the surplus. And what could that do to oil? So oil ended up, again, taking a few bounces and a few hits at that 50% level yesterday. It hit it 2 or 3 times, chunk back down again, and then again, 10:30 or reversal time, that was the bottom for oil. Blew through both the 50, 61.8, almost got all the way up top, and again, we ran into sellers on this side. Now we're back down at that 50%. The question is it going to be a takeoff point for higher? Typically, when you see surplus, you see a drop. But again, remember to use the 35-1 strategy. That's what we always use for oil. Again, I would say today with it pulling back down, it could be an interesting, again, the industry and everybody right now is saying, oh my God, it's going to be 5 million surplus. If it comes in at 1 or 2, that could be a buying opportunity. We'll see how it kind of rolls out. Gold and silver mixed again, haven't left. Although there's a lot of dollar pressure right now, gold and silver are really kind of stuck in there. The dollar actually, though, is now up. And again, I got to move it higher again. The dollar now is officially broken 103. So this thing is just going higher and higher and higher and higher. And again, part of it is because Europe is so much in trouble right now, but we'll see how it is. Indices. Okay, right now, the VIX is currently down 6%. Okay, we had this huge spike at the end of the day yesterday, and now it's kind of pulled back again. We'll see what the U.S. trader reaction is. There will be probably some volatility spike when the open is there because a lot of people haven't dealt with oh my God, you're cutting supplies off. It is commodities, so it's not a big deal. And again, we haven't seen the full effect of Microsoft and Google trading that will kind of carry over into the NQ today. Right now.
And Microsoft's in the Dow as well. So I think
it's
that's
in the Dow as well.
it's pulling the Dow higher because there is only 30 stocks, and so its impact is greater there in the Dow for Microsoft.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and this is kind of one thing that I would be looking at in the overnight around that 5:30 time frame, the European market, their reversal time. The Dow did bank right off that 50. We had this lower level here, and it bounced a few times. It came through. We'll just clear it up. The 31,170 was still kind of the big point. I would like to see what it does when it comes down there. And we talked about it yesterday, right? I would say right now, if it pulls back anymore, that would be where I'm looking for. But again, I do think we will have an initial push. I would not be selling off the 50. And in fact, if we can get a break above, at least in the Dow, above 35, what is it, 564? You can see that one going higher because there's not really any sellers until we get back up here into the 61.8 range, kind of over in here. So if we can break through that, I think that's probably pretty decent. And like I said, with everything we're seeing, again, we have a lot of profit taking from yesterday, but with that VIX down today, there should be a bit of a retracement from what we saw yesterday. And again, some of those numbers are pretty decent out there. And again, they all look the same. They all look like they bounced in the overnight right off that 50 percentile, 50% mark. And again, from the lows yesterday. Yeah, because this one has the same thing. This one actually did make it all the way up. And my take on it yesterday was I just thought it was going to be red yesterday. There was nothing out there. The VIX was too high, and again, it continued to collapse and finally found a bottom. Today, I think, again, everything is in the green right now. When you're looking to see kind of where any catalyst could come from, there's not really a lot of catalyst right now. Macklin is giving a speech tonight, and that's basically it. Here you go. German gas storage is currently filling up. Okay. I don't know if that means that it's still going in that direction.
I know what they were waiting for.
Yeah. And again, supplies are guaranteed for the summer. They've already said that before. That we're not cutting you off, just pay. More work is required to get through the Russian. It was really the winter thing that was the problem. But a Russian gas halt would trigger a German recession. German economy would shrink 5% if Russian halts gas. So that's how powerful it is. You don't need nukes when you can throw somebody into a recession and drop them by 5%. Which again, that tanks Europe. And again, that really messes with this euro pound over here. So, there's no major catalyst. Today, I would feel better taking some reversals. I'd like to see what the opening prints look like. Again, see if there's any type of pullbacks on the 15 minutes on all four indices. But overall, I think they could, I think there could be a bit of a reversal from what we saw yesterday. Again, if the initial reaction, though, was extremely negative, again, there's not much we can do with that. Russia, cutting off gas supplies. I mean, they if this, then thatted. They said, if you don't pay, we will cut off. And that's exactly what they did. So, it could definitely jack the volatility, but right now VIX is down 6%, so that's a great start to the morning today. Again, I would Dow, NQ, I think they both moved today. Gold and silver not really giving us too much of an indication, although I think silver turns and rolls. Oil inventory at 10:30 today, that's a big one. And again, natural gas, I think we do get, I think this will continue to pop up. We got our one kind of quick trade yesterday, but I think as the news gets out there and people talk about, what are you going to do? Put more sanctions on Russia?
Yeah.
I mean, they told you. I mean, the United States, if you sell something, they don't pay. You use somebody's power and you don't pay, they're cutting it off. So
and we do know.
We'll see what the world does with it.
Energy products, it's supply and demand. The demand is there. They're going to contract supply. They've a little bit. It does impact. I mean, that's how the price moves. That's just how the price moves.
Yeah. And again, as far as things going green, looking at some of the big ones. Twitter was down, found a base and stabilization point right here at a gap. Had a horrible day yesterday, but again, we typically see reversals in those things. So Twitter could reverse. Apple, same thing. Apple came back down and ended up finally punching a few times through that level. It's up kind of not from where it closed, but it's close to bouncing, and then same thing. Tesla took it big and then kind of gapped up and is now starting to stabilize. Could it retrace as well? Again, these could all fuel green day today. So a lot out there, a decent day today. And again, some blockbuster news, and I think there is definitely more to hear on this one. I think the U.S. tries to come to Europe's Russia saying, we'll do it. But remember, we don't really have any extra supply that we can give unless we break contracts with countries.
And we'd also have to liquefy it and put it on ships and ship.
Right. Also more expensive and would also drive. They also said if we do that, it will raise the price up. Even higher than what it currently is. And that would be a justification that it would be okay to take the penalties on the broken contracts. But what does that do for a kind of public relations standpoint if we break contracts with, other South American countries and countries that are less populated to fund Europe? So No, we're dead. But like I said, drop to those 15 minutes. Look for some of the news this morning, and again, prepare for tomorrow morning. And I think tomorrow is the only day, really. Again, that advanced GDP number and the unemployment claims. I think this is kind of at least finally a really good trading day for us tomorrow.
Yep.
So
we'll get some information in the morning. With that, any questions for Nadex, please email us customer service at nadex.com. Any questions for Brian, you can email Brian at support@keeptradingsimple.com. I'm also accessible. Please feel free to email me, todd.rich@nadex.com. We do have a busy day. We're going to see the equities moving around. Got Google pulling down the NASDAQ. You got Microsoft counteracting that some and helping the Dow. Markets looking to open in the green. Certainly some action in the commodities. Be sure to check out the oil inventory report that comes out at 10:30 this morning. There might be an opportunity there. And lastly, with everything that's going on in Europe, we are seeing weakness in the euro. It's turning out to be, and any currency in Europe, and it's turning into some strength for the U.S. dollar. Brian and I will be back again tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. If you like what we're doing, please feel free to give us a like on Facebook or YouTube. We do appreciate that. Brian and I will catch you tomorrow, and until then, good luck in the markets.